Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. I'm your host, Mary Roberts. I'm a certified anesthesiologist assistant living and working outside of Kansas City, Missouri. I created this podcast to give CAAs across the nation a place to come together and awaken to our profession's unique ability to create a life by design rather than default. That process can start by simply listening and engaging with this podcast. By doing so, you're already changing what's possible for CAAs, for you, for me, for all of us. I'm so thankful you're here. Let's jump into this episode and see what we can do together. A big hello to all my anesthetist colleagues out there. This is your host and fellow CAA, Mary Jean. Welcome to the latest episode of 5-ish minutes of mindfulness for the busy CAA. This episode is on gratitude. In this really practical episode, I will be sharing how a simple, consistent gratitude practice can literally change your brain to find more happiness in your everyday. I will be sharing my own journey with starting a gratitude practice and share some practical advice about getting started with one of your own. When I was first trying this gratitude thing for myself, I was listening and reading a bunch of resources, and I finally heard something that clicked and really changed the game for me. It was someone explaining the science behind the way a gratitude practice can change your brain. That science is basically summarized by a word you may have heard thrown around these days. The word is neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is our brain's ability to build new neural pathways with time and effort. We can retrain even entrenched neural pathways in our brain, like our negativity bias, which I am going to speak more about here in a moment. And we can build totally new neural pathways that can encourage our brain to scan our environment for the good instead of the bad, thus making our days strategically better. The other thing I learned a lot about that helped me buy into this idea of starting a gratitude practice was understanding the concept of our negativity bias, which I just mentioned. Our human brain has developed a very strong negativity bias as an evolutionary protection that we needed as early Homo sapiens to check the pulse of our environment and to navigate away from immediate threats or danger. Unfortunately, this negativity bias is still present in our brains, but because we aren't under significant external danger from other animals, let's say, our brain uses this negativity bias to alert us to lower level stresses. We tend to fixate on all the bad things that could happen or have happened as a form of protection. Now, we absolutely still need a negativity bias, a danger monitor on some levels, but we certainly don't need it to go off or stay alerted as often as it does in modern times. Reorganizing or deleting some of those entrenched pathways in our brain that make up our negativity bias is where starting a gratitude practice comes in. You can truly retrain your brain through a gratitude practice using the power of neuroplasticity. There is so much more to say about neuroplasticity and our innate negativity bias and how it affects us. If you are interested in learning more, I am going to share a few more resources in the October upcoming edition of my Awakened Anesthetist newsletter, which usually goes out in the first week of every month. So if you are a CAA or a CAA student and want to know more or to stay in closer contact with me and this community, you can find a link in the show notes to sign up to receive those newsletters. I also want to add that I am not discounting that there are bad things happening in the world and possibly to you right now. Hopefully, it is a comfort to know that retraining your brain using gratitude can, with time and practice, help your brain not to dwell in those negative loops. So here are 3 tips to get started using gratitude and the wonder of neuroplasticity to retrain your brain to start scanning the environment for good instead of just the bad. Number 1 is start where you are. At first, I used those little scrub cards that come off the gowns in surgery, and I wrote down my gratitudes during cases because I didn't feel like I had any other time. And then about 6 months into doing that and enjoying it, I ended up buying a journal, which was like a really cheapy little notebook that I ended up using as my gratitude journal. My second tip is that I usually just list 1 to 5-ish things. I don't ever pressure myself to meet some arbitrary goal or like depth of meaning. I never pressure myself to find big, huge things that I'm grateful for. And in fact, I purposely tend to look for small, specific things that I could feel in my body making me feel good that day, or, gave me a sense of awe or thankfulness. And those are the things I chose to write down. And my third tip is that I was flexible on when I did my gratitude practice. My perfectionist brain tends to get a little dogmatic on, doing everything a certain way. And I had to do the practice in the morning and in a certain notebook and whatever. And I just really released myself from all of that perfection. And I just started, and I had strings of days where I was super committed. I missed a whole bunch of days, but I tried not to worry about it, which, is hard for me, but I trusted that I was doing something good for myself, period. To close this episode, I wanted to give you some real life examples of gratitudes that I listed in those early days of starting out. Some of these are still on my current gratitude lists, but I always like when other podcasters or teachers share examples of what they're talking about, so it just helps me connect the dots. So here are some of my examples from my early days. A quiet morning before anyone wakes up in the house. A pre-call day where I got out of work unexpectedly early. A new bud on our Lincoln rose bush. And a good poop. I'm not joking. I wrote that last one a lot. I am always thankful for healthy bowels. And with that, I leave you thinking about my bowels and starting your own gratitude practice. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you feel encouraged to start your own gratitude practice simply and imperfectly. If you want to learn a bit more about our human negativity bias or neuroplasticity, or just to stay more connected to this community, you can sign up for our monthly Awakened Anesthetist newsletter. You can find the link in the show notes. I hope to find you there. Remember, you deserve to feel good behind the drape. Talk soon.